The offseason is officially upon us. The Atlanta Braves are World Series champions, which is kind of amazing in and of itself. They were a team that we talked about, when the Giants were playing the Dodgers. We were talking about, hey, if the Braves find a way to beat the Brewers, that would be the Giants' easiest path to the World Series. But here the Braves are as world champions. So congratulations to them. But for us on Locked On Giants, today we're going to kick off the offseason, giving you a timeline of what to expect as the next month plus unfolds. It's going to be a very, very interesting offseason for a number of reasons, not only for the Giants, but for the sport at large, as there is the threat of a possible lockout beginning in early December. So we'll break down all the key dates and what I'm talking about with that potential lockout next on today's Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants Baseball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, and I'm a lifelong fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. This episode is brought to you by Spotify Green Room. Download the Spotify Green Room app and find one of our Locked On rooms. Anyway, coming up on today's show, it's our first show of the official offseason. It's finally here. Obviously, the wish was that the 107-win Giants could find a way to be the team playing until the end, but that wasn't the case. They get knocked off by the Dodgers in the first round. Dodgers lose to the Braves, and Braves go on to win the World Series against the Astros. So congratulations to the Braves, but on today's show, we're going to talk about the key dates for the offseason, which, of course, like I said, gets underway today. So without any kind of further delay, let's just jump right into it. So today, November 3rd, is the beginning of a 5-day period where teams and players must decide whether to exercise or decline contract options and opt-out clauses for 2022. Eligible free agents cannot sign with anyone but their current team during this 5-day period. And teams also have to make decisions on the qualifying offer. And so the cutoff date here is Sunday at 4 o'clock Central Time. So 2 o'clock Pacific Time is the cutoff for these decisions to be made. And the Giants have several key decisions to make in this regard. And we've been talking about them if you've been following this show so far since the Giants have been eliminated. We've talked about this a lot. And those decisions that must be made by Sunday are as follows. There's a $22 million club option for Buster Posey, and this is probably the biggest decision that's going to be made by Sunday for the San Francisco Giants. That club option has a $3 million buyout, making it effectively a $19 million club option for 2022. Now, if you've heard me say this before, I apologize, but some of you probably have not. But the fact is that there's three possible outcomes here with Buster Posey as far as I'm concerned. Number one, they simply exercise the club option. It's pretty much a no-brainer to pick up after the season he just had. So perhaps they just exercise the club option, there's no extension, and he doesn't retire. So we'll get to those possibilities in a second. I'll explain myself there. And then he would be back for $22 million in 2022. Now, the second possibility is that Buster Posey informs the team that he intends to retire, in which case the buy out the option, or he would, if he's retiring, they might not have to pay the buyout, but that's neither here nor there. It's kind of chump change for a team like the Giants, that $3 million buyout. So option number 3 is they work out an extension. Now, it's always possible that they could accept the club option, exercise the club option, and later work out an extension. So there's no deadline for an extension, but oftentimes these do get worked out by the time the deadline comes. So anyway, that's where I stand with Posey. And again, to reiterate, these decisions have to be made by this upcoming Sunday. So it is, to kick off the offseason right away, there is activity. So the second decision, and it's not really a decision, it's not a hard decision, is a $22 million club option on Johnny Cueto. Now that comes with a $5 million buyout, making it effectively a $17 million club option. That is way more than he would get on the open market, making it an easy decision to decline the club option. So that will be formally announced by Sunday that the Giants have declined that club option, making Cueto officially a free agent. Now, there's 2 more club option decisions. Wilmer Flores has a $3.5 million club option with a buyout of $250,000, making it effectively a $3.25 million club option. Flores has played a big role for the Giants over the last 2 seasons in the role of right-handed hitter, mostly playing against left-handed pitching. As we've seen, not a great defender, certainly not a great runner, but more than capable with the bat. And so I think that this is pretty much a no-brainer to pick up. But there's an outside shot that maybe they want to turn the page, or they think that they could re-sign him for less. So we'll see. But I think it's pretty much a no-brainer that they will pick up this $3.5 million club option. Now, finally, the 4th club option is on José Álvarez. It's a $1.5 million option with a $100,000 buyout, making it effectively a $1.4 million club option, which is a no-brainer to pick up after the season he just had. Got off to a rocky start, but at the end of the day was rock solid and just very, very reliable as kind of a mid-inning reliever. So anyway, those are the decisions that have to be made by Sunday, and the Giants also must make qualifying offer decisions. So the qualifying offer, you've probably heard a lot about it, but it can be a little confusing. So coming up next, we'll talk about what it is, what the deadline is, because the Giants have a part and then the players have a part once the Giants are done with their part. So we'll talk about what those key dates are, and we'll get into what that is in just a minute. But first, this episode is brought to you by Green Room. Green Room is the first social audio platform made for sports fans. The app is free to download, and once you're in, you can chat with me, other fans, athletes, and insiders in real time about your favorite team or sport. I host rooms for Locked On Giants once a week, so yes, you can finally join in on the conversation you listen to here every day. You'll have a chance to chat with me and might even have a chance to be featured on the Locked On Giants podcast through our Green Room conversations. Be sure to join me this weekend. I host rooms for Locked On Giants, like I said, once a week, typically on the weekends. So please go download the free Green Room app now, currently available on all iOS devices. Be sure to create a profile, link your Twitter, and join the MLB group for the latest league updates. Follow me at Ben Kaspick to be notified when my room goes live. I know you won't want to miss it. I'm planning to be live this weekend. I can't wait to hear everyone's thoughts on the Giants, so I'll see you there. Green Room, changing the way we talk sports. All right, as promised, we're going to get into the qualifying offer, and we're going to move on to some other key dates for the offseason. There's a lot that happens in November, so we're going to tell you what those deadlines are, and then we'll lead you up to the biggest deadline of them all, which is the expiration of the collective bargaining agreement, and that could potentially lead to a lockout in Major League Baseball and potentially a transactions freeze. So we'll talk all about that in a minute. But thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. So yeah, the deadline, like I said, for all those club options is Sunday at 2 o'clock. And the deadline for the qualifying offer decisions is at the same time. So teams must make a decision whether or not to issue the qualifying offer to eligible players by this upcoming Sunday at 2 o'clock Pacific time. Now, the Giants have some really interesting cases when it comes to the qualifying offer. Basically, what the qualifying offer is it's a number that's kind of auto-generated by the top X percent of players in terms of average annual value in the previous season. So take 2021, look at the top 15, 20% of players, and what is that average annual value for their contract for that year. And so that's the number. So it's always different. I mean, it could be the same, but this year it's actually down from last year, which speaks to the fact that salaries were down across the sport after the pandemic. So it's not that surprising. But anyway, the figure this year is $18.4 million, and it's a 1-year offer. And to be eligible to receive this offer, basically there's only 2 criteria. Number 1, you cannot have received it in the past. So Kevin Gausman, the Giants offered it to him last year. He actually accepted it, which is pretty rare. Usually this offer gets rejected, and we'll talk about why it's a negative for players because of that. But Kevin Gausman accepted it last year, and therefore he's ineligible to receive it this year. But the other criteria is that you have to have spent the entire season with the team that you ended the year with. So Chris Bryant, just as an example, he would have been eligible to receive the qualifying offer, but he's not because he was traded mid-season. He obviously started the year with the Cubs, ended the year with the Giants, so they cannot put this on him. So the benefit to teams, the reason teams do this ultimately, is because if the player rejects the qualifying offer and ends up signing with another team, you get draft pick compensation for that. And so this has also happened to the Giants in the recent past. They put the qualifying offer on Madison Bumgarner and Will Smith in the 2019 offseason. Both players ended up signing elsewhere, so the Giants got 2 additional draft picks after the second round, or before the second round. I can't actually remember off the top of my head when that draft pick occurs, but that is the reality for teams that lose a player after they had offered them the qualifying offer. So anyway, the Giants have a lot of players who are eligible, but only a few players who are candidates to receive the qualifying offer by this Sunday at 2 o'clock Pacific time. The first and biggest case here, the most likely to receive it, is Brandon Belt. So he is eligible, and it is an $18.4 million offer. He was making $17.2 million in 2021, the final year of his 5-year, $72.8 million extension that he signed prior to the 2017 season. So anyway, the $18.4 million qualifying offer, to me, is a no-brainer to put on Brandon Belt. And as a team, there's several different ways this could go. Number 1, he could accept the offer, and then you've got Brandon Belt for 1 year, $18.4 million. Great. Number 2, he could reject it. He could still sign with you. This is an important point about it. Just because a player rejects the qualifying offer doesn't mean they can't sign with you. But before I go too far down this road, I do just want to make the point that players have 10 days to make a decision on whether to accept or reject a qualifying offer. In the meantime, they can accept any deal with any team, including the team that put the qualifying offer on them. But they can also negotiate with other teams at that point. And obviously, if they can accept an offer from another team, that means they're negotiating with other teams. But it kind of forces action. And yeah, so they're going to put this offer on Brandon Belt. I would be stunned if they didn't. The only reason they wouldn't is if there's some kind of medical issue that is serious and it's going to cost him time, and they know it beginning in 2022. And that's, as far as I know, not the case at all. Brandon Belt did break his thumb, but I'm sure they expect him to be ready for 2022. So the other kind of key players here who are eligible to receive the offer and might are Anthony DeSclafani and Alex Wood. I think both are unlikely, but both are possible. It's kind of in that Drew Smyly realm last year. Smyly was fantastic with the Giants in the short season last year, but they still elected not to put the qualifying offer on him. And basically the reason you wouldn't do it is if you think it's like a massive overpay. And again, not putting the qualifying offer on them doesn't mean you can't bring them back. It just means basically the risk to teams is that a player accepts the qualifying offer and you think they're not worth that much. That's basically what it is. But both DeSclafani and Wood are somewhat borderline cases after the seasons they had. I just so happen to think that neither will ultimately receive the qualifying offer, but I wouldn't be shocked if one or both do. So that remains to be seen. And again, we'll know whether or not the Giants made we'll know what who the Giants are putting the qualifying offer on Sunday at 2:00 Pacific time. So anyway, we will be covering that. We'll be here on Monday talking about those decisions and the club option decisions. We'll have news about Posey, Flores, Alvarez, the formality of Cueto, and then these qualifying offer decisions as well. So coming up next, we'll talk about the other key deadlines in the offseason. There are several things that happen in December leading up to the expiration of the collective bargaining agreement on December 1st at around midnight. So we'll get into all of that next. But before we do, I love Thanksgiving. I just need you to know that. All of the good food and treats and plenty of them, but maybe you want a yummy dessert that isn't so high in calories and sugar. It's the perfect time for Built Bars. Built Bar is the new holiday dessert. Feast on something delicious and feel good about it. That is the key. A slice of pie has upwards of 300 calories, and that's on the low end. Most Built Bars are only 130 calories and only 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. Replace the coconut cream pie with coconut Built Bars, or go for a raspberry Built Bar, my personal favorite, instead of that raspberry pie. Lots of good flavors to replace any pie. And all these Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate as well. It's a great option for when you're hungry. If Thanksgiving isn't coming soon enough, go for a Built Bar or two. There's nothing like Built Bar Black Friday. Mark your calendar. Black Friday will be a huge event with all sorts of surprises, so be on the lookout for that. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and you'll get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. We're back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season, more props, odds, and lines than ever before as well. BetOnline remains your #1 spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, baseball postseason, well, no more of that, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, here we go. We're going to just kind of continue talking about the MLB offseason, which gets underway today. Like I said, today, the first of those 5 days teams have to decide. I mean, I don't know why they give them 5 days. Like, they could have been thinking about this all month, all year. So none of these are really difficult decisions, and the Giants, a lot of them are going to be a formality. I take that back. Some of them are difficult decisions with the qualifying offer and maybe the Wilmer Flores club option and then the Posey situation. But anyway, once all of that is done, once Sunday passes and those options and qualifying offer decisions have been made, Monday, November 8th, marks the opening of free agency. So any player can sign with any team at that point in time. So on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the general managers meetings are hosted in Carlsbad, California. So this isn't like the same as the winter meetings, but it is a time when all the GMs across the sport get together and discuss issues within the sport and also have a chance to kind of talk about deals and potential trades and just kind of light the fires for some possible hot stove action down the road. This year, they're probably going to be talking a lot about the upcoming expiration of the collective bargaining agreement, which we'll get to momentarily. So again, November 17th is the deadline for players tagged with a qualifying offer to accept or reject it. And then 2 days later, on November 19th, that is the deadline, that's a Friday, for teams to add players to the 40-man roster to keep them from selection in the Rule 5 draft. So if you haven't heard me talk about this yet, this is actually a really important date, and we're going to have some key decisions made by the Giants by this date. And the fact is, certain players become eligible every year to be taken in the Rule 5 draft, which takes place at the end of the winter meetings. And the winter meetings are scheduled to take place November 6th through 9th in Orlando. So the Rule 5 draft is on December 8th. And basically, prospects like Heliot Ramos, for example, must be added to the Giants' 40-man roster, or else they're eligible to just be swiped by another team, and that team basically just gets to keep the player as long as they keep them on their Major League roster all season long. So the Giants have several key decisions to make. It's not just Heliot Ramos. Hjelle, Seth Corry, and other good prospects for the Giants are eligible this season to be selected in that Rule 5 draft. So the Giants will have to add them to their 40-man roster to protect them, and that is going to create a crunch that we're going to have to talk a lot about as these dates come up and as these decisions get made. So it's major news and a big reason to follow Locked On Giants every day throughout the offseason, because it's not slow, and this is going to be a big offseason for the Giants. So anyway, that happens on November 19th, and then boom, here we are. Next key deadline is December 1st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So December 1st, that is a Wednesday. So Wednesday, December 1st at about midnight Eastern Time is the expiration of the current collective bargaining agreement. So if Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association do not agree to a new collective bargaining agreement by that deadline, the league may institute a lockout that freezes teams' ability to make transactions until negotiations are resolved. So this is a huge threat looming over the sport, and I would say the likelihood is high that this ends up happening. I really hope it doesn't, but I haven't seen anything from these two sides, the league and the players, that suggests peaceful and strong and productive negotiation is going to happen. The negotiations just to start the 2020 season, remember all that and the delays and how the season didn't start until mid-July. That was because these two sides couldn't agree on anything. They're accusing each other of negotiating in bad faith and all kinds of issues like that. So that is very possible that it's going to happen again, and then it would put everything after that date into question. For example, on December 2nd, that's the non-tender deadline, and all these arbitration-eligible players could be non-tendered, but if there's a transactions freeze, that's not going to happen. And then the winter meetings are scheduled to take place December 6th through 9th. If there's a transactions freeze, that may not happen. At least the major league portion. There can still be minor league activity. Rule 5 draft probably could still happen, but anyway, that's kind of where we have to stop for now, because anything beyond that, we just don't know if it's going to happen in due time. Eventually, it'll all probably happen, but there definitely could be a lockout before it. So that's kind of getting you prepared for the next month. We will be there every single step of the way on Locked On Giants. I really hope you enjoyed today's show. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. You can follow me on Twitter at Ben Kaspick. That's Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it, leaving a review, liking, commenting, subscribing on YouTube, all of that good stuff. So thank you in advance, and thank you to everyone who's done so already. I really, truly mean that, so thank you. Anyway, hope you enjoyed today's show. Thanks again for listening. Stay locked on Giants.